July 7th, 2026. Microsoft tells 4,800 employees they no longer have a job. 3 weeks earlier, in a leaked internal email, Microsoft's own CEO wrote that Copilot's core integrations, quote, for the most part don't really work and are, quote, not smart. Not a critic, not a competitor. The man who runs the company talking about his own flagship product. So how does a trillion-dollar company end up firing thousands of people while its CEO is privately trashing the one product it bet everything on? You have to go back to March 2023, when Satya Nadella stood up and promised Copilot would change how the world uses computers, that we would not be able to imagine computing without it. 3 years later, out of 450 million Microsoft 365 users, barely 3% pay for it. Microsoft had even paid Forrester to run a study claiming businesses would see a return on investment as high as 116%. On paper, the math worked. In practice, the product could not do what the math assumed. Microsoft has run this exact playbook before, and it always worked. In 1996, they bundled Internet Explorer into Windows and buried Netscape, the browser 80% of the internet used. The government called it an illegal monopoly. Nothing happened. Internet Explorer won anyway. They repeated it with Bing, Cortana, OneDrive, Edge, pre-install it, make it the default, let a billion locked-in Windows users do the rest. To this day, the most searched term on Bing is still Google, and it did not matter. Bing still made $12 billion a year off default placement alone. Then came AI, and Microsoft assumed the same trick would work a fourth time. But this time the audience had somewhere else to go. ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini were all one download away, not locked behind an operating system Microsoft controlled. In January 2024, Microsoft touched the keyboard for the first time in 30 years. A key that had existed since 1994 was deleted and replaced with a dedicated Copilot button. Any laptop wanting the AI PC label had no choice but to include it. Within months, it was on nearly every new Dell, HP, Lenovo, and Asus machine sold. Copilot got pinned to the taskbar by default. It got pushed into Notepad, snipping tool, photos, widgets, apps that had nothing to do with AI. Microsoft auto-installed the Copilot app through a routine security update without asking anyone. When users noticed, Microsoft called it a bug. Months later, they did the exact same thing again, on purpose. Then came the price. In October 2024, Microsoft bundled Copilot into Microsoft 365 personal and family plans, starting in Australia. The personal plan jumped from roughly $19 to $159. A cheaper Copilot-free plan still existed. Microsoft just made sure nobody could find it. The only way to see it was to start canceling your subscription. 2.7 million Australians were affected. The government took Microsoft to federal court. By 2026, Italian regulators had opened their own investigation into whether Microsoft was giving people a real choice at all.
The U.S. Federal Trade Commission has opened an antitrust investigation into Microsoft. This is according to a report by Bloomberg. This report saying that this is drilling into everything from the company's cloud computing and software licensing businesses to cybersecurity and AI.
It was the 1996 playbook running at a bigger scale than it had ever run before. Here is what Microsoft did not plan for. The product did not work. A user asked Copilot to bold every date in a Word document. Instead of doing it, Copilot explained how to do it manually. Microsoft's own documentation warned users not to trust Copilot in Excel for anything that needed to be accurate, because it made things up. By mid-2025, out of 450 million subscribers, only 15 million, 3.3%, had signed up for Copilot. Weekly active users sat flat around 20 million for a year, while ChatGPT crossed 900 million. Microsoft's own CFO showed executives a slide of Copilot's growth. It was a flat line. When 150,000 enterprise workers were given a free choice between Copilot, ChatGPT, and Gemini, only 8% picked Copilot. Then the security failures started. In March 2024, the US House of Representatives banned Copilot from every congressional device over data leak concerns. In June 2025, researchers disclosed a flaw called EchoLeak, scoring 9.3 out of 10 in severity. A single email could silently steal a victim's data with 0 clicks required from the victim. A separate bug let Copilot bypass its own confidentiality labels and read emails it was never supposed to touch. The UK's National Health Service confirmed it was affected. A trillion-dollar company with its own cybersecurity division, one of the biggest in the world, could not secure its own flagship AI product against one unopened email. Nearly half of the people who stopped using Copilot said the reason was simple: they did not trust its answers. By late 2025, Nadella could see it coming. He handed off day-to-day business control to focus entirely on the product, and started sitting in an internal Teams channel with 100 top engineers, posting critiques whenever things fell short. That is where the quote came from, the one that opened this video. Copilot's integrations, in his own words, for the most part do not really work. In March 2026, Microsoft admitted it in public. A blog post titled "Our Commitment to Windows Quality" promised to strip AI out of snipping tool, photos, widgets, and Notepad. The taskbar button got quietly switched off. IT admins were finally allowed to fully uninstall Copilot, something they had been asking for over a year. But even mid-retreat, Microsoft could not help itself. Weeks later, it pulled free Copilot features from Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote for enterprise users. Features that had been free since September 2025, and buried the change in restricted admin notifications instead of a public pricing page. Then, in May 2026, it launched a new $99 per user tier, bundling even more AI at an even higher price. Which brings us back to July the 7th, 2026. 4,800 people lose their jobs. The company says the cuts are not about being replaced by AI, while it pours a projected $190 billion into AI infrastructure for the year and watches its own stock fall 23% in 6 months. Its worst first half since 2022. Microsoft spent $13 billion funding OpenAI and $80 billion more building the infrastructure behind it. It had the money, the users, and a playbook that worked for 30 years. And here is the detail that says everything. Copilot now runs partly on models built by Anthropic, one of the exact companies it was supposed to beat, and Microsoft even lost its exclusive grip on OpenAI itself. Microsoft did not lose because it moved too slowly. It lost because for the first time in 30 years, its own CEO had to admit, in writing, that the product was not good enough, and firing thousands of people was still cheaper than fixing it. 30 years of forcing products on people, and the one time it actually mattered, Microsoft could not force people to trust something that did not work.